rockers from all around the world. It is the MPJ Album of the Year show. Woo! Welcome, and the whole gang is here, apart from one who unfortunately can't be here, which is Paul. But welcome to Simon, to Andy, to Chris, to William, to Dom, who's back after a little sabbatical, and Trish, and to Lauren. Welcome everybody back. So, right, we have been we've listened to 158 albums last year. And then we've selected our top 20. How has we done that? Well, what we've done is we rate albums out of 5. So it's our top 10 automatically get a place. And then each of us from an album that's got a rating of 4 or more and go into our Hall of Fame for that year, we have picked one of those albums as our wild card. So the list is very exciting. Who do we have? The lineup, really, from when you look at... what I'll do is I'll go from the ones that have had the highest rating, not necessarily of one album of the year, but would be the hot favourites. Should be, in theory, the hot favourites to win it. So our number 1 rated album last year was Future Palace, with Distortion. And then Nothing More, Carnal. Pain, I Am. The Struts are Pretty Vicious. Visions of Atlantis, with Pirates to Armada. Now, let's put it out there, previous winner 2 years ago with their original album, Pirates. Daughtry, Shock to the System. Fame on Fire, The Death Card. P.O.D. and Veritas, The Warning and Keep Me Fed. Powerwolf and Wake Up the Wicked. Now those were our automatic selections based on their ratings. They had 4 or 4.5 or more. And then we had Dead Poet Society with Vision, Love Boxx with Save Me, Atreyu with A Beautiful Dark of Life, The Hot Damn, Dance in the Milky Way, Fall in Reverse and Popular Monster, Eclipse and Megalomania II. And then we've also got SpiritBox, The Fear of Fear, Black Country Communion with 5. What else? Everygrey and The Theories of Emptiness, Fans of the Dark and Video kind of complete that sort of lineup from that side of things as well. So, but what was missing, do we think? What was this? Simon, is there an album not in that list that you would have loved to have seen that you think should have been in that top 20 or should have been in there? Do you have one even? You don't have to have one. But...
Yes, we have reviewed so many albums this year. I don't remember them all. My personal favourites would have been things like Powerwolf and Orden Ogan. I'd have loved to see them in the top 20s, but
Powerwolf did
for everyone.
Powerwolf did.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
But Orden Ogden, you're a big fan of Orden Ogden. Now, Andy, you were kind of new to the scene, so you didn't get to listen to a huge amount of albums the last couple of months. But was there any album that you listened to in the year that you would have gone, "Oh, I wish we'd reviewed that, and wish we got it in"?
Nothing quite actually springs to mind. It has to be said. Obviously, there's probably so many which you probably reviewed, which obviously I'm not going to listen to 150, however many albums it was. I just,
no commitment.
There's so much time in the world to do it.
William?
So, we'll see.
William, anything for you?
Probably the only thing that didn't make it on from our things for me would have to probably be Amaranth, because they're really cool and they make me happy, and I like when the people shout at me.
Mate, it came down to Amaranth and Evergrey for me as my wild card. It really did. It was one of those two albums. And
you chose wrong.
Well, you chose wrong. You picked Fall in Reverse, so I could say the same thing to you. Dom, anything for you?
I remember we reviewed Greta Van Fleet, and they're always high up there for me. And I would have loved to have seen that. I think they're just such a solid band. It's just such a vibe, isn't it? Really,
mate. I'm there. I'm feeling your pain.
Yeah,
tears are welling up in my eyes. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Chris.
So back in January, a long time ago, we reviewed Dominum, Hey Living People, which was my first 4. I think it's the highest rating I'd given at that point was a 4.5. So yeah, it's a shame that didn't manage to get in, but I don't think it was everyone else's cup of tea quite the same as it was mine. So that was a one that, just as I was going back over the year and reviewing it, it's like I'd almost, if I confess, with all the music that we listened to, I'd kind of forgotten about them. So maybe they weren't as great as I thought at the time. But it was the highest I'd rated at that point, and so yeah, it's a shame they didn't manage to get through.
And of course, well, you'll get to start the new year off again because their new album is out, mate. And we'll go through that in January, which is quite exciting. Trish.
For me, it had to be Hearts and Hand Grenades. Gutted, my friends didn't make it in. But, you know, it's all personal choice, personal listening. But yeah, that would have been the one that I would have loved to have seen got in.
Yeah, it would be nice to see them. Lauren, now you're brand new to the show. You've only been on a couple of episodes. So was there anything in particular that you had listened to in the year that you went, oh, I'd love to have seen that in the top 20?
So for me, like, I had because I keep notes on everything that I review so I can refer to them. I had a quick look through and a little spool through the playlists. And one that I didn't rate particularly highly when I reviewed it was actually from my first show. It was Hardy Quit.
Yeah.
And I've gone back to it in parts and stuff like that, and then started listening to it as a whole album again. And I was like, actually, on the face of it, this is actually quite good if you give it its chance.
Oh, it was a very good album. Yeah, it was a very good album. Yeah, for me, obviously, the big contention was Nightwish, and that was a bit of a contentious show, wasn't it? Because, like, for me, it's an absolute travesty that is not in our getting to our Hall of Fame and our top.
I thought you meant the travesty of an album. Sorry.
Well, exactly, very, very contentious.
That might be going a bit far.
Very contentious, but I just think that is a stupendous album. But there we go. There we have it. Right.
Not Nightwish, though, are they?
Yes, they are Nightwish, mate. They are Nightwish. They're, you know. Anyway, legally they're Nightwish. So there we go.
Biggest broom.
Yeah. Right. Okie dokie then. So, let's crack on, shall we, with our top albums of the year. Let's start with, obviously, the album in 20th place. Now, it's very exciting because this album, in some ways, this is so close because there's a crossover, isn't it? You know, you would think that, you know, with a 4.9, which is our high rating, that potentially Future Palace will be our number one album. But of course, it's metalcore, and what we have here is a merger of two sides of the coin. Because some of us don't like metalcore, other people absolutely adore it. So you would think, but might be the case. Will Visions of Atlantis and Pirates get its second album of the year? There's so many questions to answer. You know, last year, Edge of Paradise, which we have here, was our wild card. One of our wild cards that finished fourth. Will it be a surprise like that, for example? Let's find out, shall we? So, just another point. Last year, our lowest rating was got 19 points. So just for everybody who's listening who wants to know how we do this. How we do this is that we rate our top 15 albums out of the 20 points for first, 18, 16, 14, 12, 10, and then down to kind of 9 down to 1 point. So 5 albums we wouldn't have voted for. Now, there's only 2 albums that got a vote from every single person, and that's how kind of. Do you know what I mean? So there was albums in here we loved, there's albums in here we didn't love, depending on our personal taste. So we are very varied in our tastes. Very varied. But the common thread is we all love rock. So this is a rock album. Anyway, let's crack on. In 20th place is Eclipse and Megalomania II with the album. Got 31 points, which is much higher than a lot of the bottom one, so it still scored incredibly well. Lauren, this was your wild card on that score. So disappointed or expected or?
So like we said before, I've not done the show for that long. So it was one of those things where it was half really enjoyed the album, half statistically had done one of the best that I had rated. Listening to it in tandem with everything else that's come for this show, I'm not disappointed, to be honest. Like I said to you before, it's a good album. I enjoy it, don't get me wrong. However, some of the titans that it's gone up against for this section of the year, just wow. But yeah, even in my original notes for it, I've got that it's good work music, pop punk, great vocals, good pace, but it's not going to make you sit up and go, whoa, what have I just listened to? Whereas some of the stuff that's on the list this year totally does that.
I think my biggest shock when I saw the votes was from William. Because William, I wouldn't have expected this sort of album to be in your top 10, and it was in your top 10.
I mean, 10th place is a bold place to consider as the top 10. Unfortunately, I'm obliged to give points beyond a certain place, and so after a point, it's not necessarily that I liked them especially. I liked it more than the things I didn't like. By virtue of that,
At least you're honest.
I have to give 15 votes, and so.
Yeah, well, Lawrence, it was Lawrence highest rated with an 8, and Paul gave it a 7. Okay, in 19th place is Fans of the Dark and their album Video, which got 39 points, which is Paul's wild card, and it was his second favourite album of the year. It was in my top 10. I give it 9 points. Very interestingly for me. And it was very interesting when you saw the scores that the people who give it points were really were Trish. You rated this really highly. It's not me. I give it 4 points. You actually give it 9. My apologies for that. And me, Andy, and Paul from that sort of genre because give it the most points. Because for me, lyrically, bizarrely, is probably one of the best albums in the top 20 lyrically because. But only if you lived back in the 80s and the 90s and you get it. Because when for me, meet me at the corner was I remember, arranging to meet a girl at the corner to go on a date and going and renting a video, and it, oh my god, musically and lyrically, it really did transport you right back to that sort of era. But yeah, but Trish, you was very, very highly rated from you.
Yeah, well, like it takes you back to that place, and in the 80s I was a teenager and, remember Blockbusters, Apollo Video. It was just lyrically really good and it was the cheesy 80s rock. Yeah. Brilliant. Very good album. Very lyrically fantastic. Okay, in 18th place we have Everygrey and The Theory of Emptiness, which was my wild card. There we go. I came down with flu recently, missed the concert which Trish went to, absolutely gutted. Trish, very highly rated from you. This was your 4th favourite album. Oh, God. I love this album. I love them. Last Sunday, ending the year, my last concert of 2024, met the guitarist, met the drummer. I was in Eclipse heaven.
It was
very heavenly.
And Andy, you're listening in retrospect, and this was your number 5, mate.
It was. It was good as well. So I enjoyed it. Absolutely. Obviously, it was the right choice to put in there. Maybe.
I think so. I think it's a very heavy. It's a very heavy melodic rock album, isn't it? I think it takes a little bit of a tuning to it. It's not an easy listen when you first listen off, but it's a very, very it's a very deep album in terms of its shade, light and shade from that side of things as well. So yeah, I give it 8 points from that one. It's got 42, so it scored very highly. Okay, in 17th place is Powerwolf and Wake Up the Dead, which is the first album that's not a wild card. Actually, it was our it kind of finished 18th overall. 8th overall. It was one of our top-rated albums. But when it came down to it, it didn't really tick the boxes. Other than obviously William, it was your number 4 or number 3, number 4, and Simon, it was your number 5. So William,
great minds think alike, sir.
Yeah, big gutted, not higher.
I'm not surprised. I've resigned myself to accept that most of the ones that I really liked probably aren't going to do fantastically well anyway. But I love Powerwolf. They just make me happy. They sing funny songs about religion and vampires and werewolves, and what's not to love about that? It was such a fun album, but nah.
Simon?
Same as what William says. Their vocal style is distinctive, so I'm not surprised that it didn't get much higher. But it's good stuff, and I'm just glad people like it.
It's really good. 'Cause, yeah, Andy, you quite. I'm surprised. Obviously, maybe you a bit of power, power metal,
vampires and stuff. It's all gonna be cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why not? What's not to love?
And
at least it's like it is about various cool stuff, and you have fun doing it. I'm always I'm a bit of a sucker for just having fun, songs and stuff like that for it. So yeah, it's good to listen to.
The only two people that didn't give this points was Trish and Lauren. Lauren, not your cup of tea in terms of power metal.
With some of the other stuff that I've listened to, it was good, don't get me wrong, but of course, because I was having to listen to everything in tandem, and for a lot of stuff I didn't have the ability to have been on the shows at the time. A lot of it was a case of I was listening to the albums, then popping them where I thought they were, and if they moved, and unfortunately it just got knocked off.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with you. Okay, in 16th place is SpiritBox and Fear of the Fear. There was two albums that really kind of went, well, you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. And other than Will and Simon, who both rated this as their third favourite album of the year, and Dom, who rated it just inside, I think it was his sixth favourite album by the look of it. Lauren gave a couple of points. Nobody else gave this any points because it really is hardcore. Out of all the metalcore albums that we listened to or got into our top 20, this probably was the hardcore of all the metalcore albums that we listened to from that perspective. Yeah. But what makes this so special for you? And Sam, we'll start with you. What makes this so special for you?
I just love what they do. I love their style. I love their sound. SpiritBox is one of my most listened to artists of last year, according to my Spotify. So, yeah, I just love her vocals, love their sound. Saw them live last year. Can't wait to see them live again next year. Yeah, just really good band.
William?
I mean, same. It's just they've got such a fantastic sound. I know it's obviously shockingly. I love the vocals. That screaming, pure emotional vocals. But also just the backing music as well. It's just so fantastic and just so well made. I saw an interview with them the other day saying, the lead singer saying, it's such a shame that we have to put vocals over a lot of our songs because just the instrumentals are so beautiful and so well done. But no, I'm just surprised that this is better than Powerwolf. This is it's going to be very exciting. Oh.
There we go. Okie dokie. That is our first 5 albums. We're now moving into the top 15 from that side of things as well. In 15th place is Black Communion and 5, which was Chris's wild card. And Chris, this was your second top album. So not only was your wild card, but certainly your second favourite album of the year.
Yeah, very much so. I think it's kind of going back a bit because I think we picked up Black Country Communion in July, but again it was one of the highest rated albums that I had this year. And the notes that I wrote for it at the time, where it's kind of stylistically, it reminds me a lot of sort of the very early Bon Jovi stuff like New Jersey and stuff like that. But lyrically, it's just Chris Cornell, Audio Slave all over it. It feels so much like that, and the combination of the two together just really struck a chord, and I really liked it. I confess, when I started going back to it to listen to it for the end of the year show, with everything else that it's up against, I knew it wasn't going to do as well as it could possibly have done, because there is just so much that is so much better, unfortunately. But it's still, when I first went back to it, it's like, did I really like this back in July? And then as I listened to it more, it's like, actually, yeah, I can remember all the reasons why I did. And it just kind of, woke up the warm, happy feelings inside. So yeah, it's a brilliant album. It's just that there's so much that is so much better.
And again, it's down to taste as well. And somebody else who did like it was Andy. Andy, this is rated your 4th favourite album.
It was, yeah. No, I really enjoyed it. As I said, it's like good, solid American hard rock, which is sort of just, again, echoes of various other stuff which threw. But I really loved that one. That was a good one.
Dom, it squeezed just outside your top 10, and Paul, it finished in his top 10 as well. So yeah, got 48 points, scored well. It got into my, I give it points as well. Okay, in 14th place is Falling in Reverse and Popular Monster. Sorry, William. Got 52 points though. William, this was your wild card.
God damn right, son.
Yeah. This obviously, and it was your second rated album.
It was indeed.
What made you love this album?
I absolutely adore Falling in Reverse. They're just I think for me this was the best album of the year. It wasn't my favourite, obviously, but it's just the way he transcends genre with all of the songs, and it's just, I think he's genuinely not only one of the best albums, he's one of the best current vocalists out there, with just the immense range he's able to do with his singing now. Hard growling, clean singing, rap, just he could do everything and do it so well. But oh man, I love Falling.
Can't enter the UK though, can he?
Well, the government are a bit don't like the naughty people who were naughty in the early 2000s. But also the bias of like Future Palace, it came out at a rather important time for me this year. So it's just I love it. Falling in Reverse is the good times.
Simon, it was your number 6. Why not higher?
Just for me, I really enjoyed it. I do enjoy the style and how much they bring to the table, but there are other albums that were just that bit better for me this year.
And Lauren, this was your 6th album as well, had you listened to it prior to the show, or is it something that you went back to because it got into our top 20?
So I listened to Falling in Reverse anyway, because sort of like, as Will can probably attest to, I'm part of that like middle ground sort of generation where when you watched Kerrang TV and you got into rock at that sort of teenage age, it was all that sort of stuff, and they were doing really cool stuff with different genres at the time anyway, with like Bad Girls Club and all that sort of thing. It was like, oh, okay, I can bop to this, and it just then got its hooks in you. So when I saw it was on the list, I was like, oh yeah, that's cool, I'm looking forward to listening to that. And like, it was really high up there. It was like in the top half of my top 5, but again, unfortunately, other things just pipped it.
Yeah, for me, I even though I didn't give any points, it was one of those love-hate albums for me, because there was some aspect, and you say about transcending, well, I just got confused by him transcending. I mean, because like, you go from like hard, shouty rock to some really pop country rock, and it just confused the hell out of me. But I get it. I do get it, but
I think that kind of came up for me as well, because when we were having when we did the album of the year last year and we were looking at favourite songs, Will and I were talking about I think it was Watch the World Burn that came out the early part of 2023.
Yes.
And that kind of really got me into Falling in Reverse. And if you look at the track list on there, Popular Monster, All My Life, Voices in My Head, Watch the World Burn, Trigger Warning are brilliant songs. And then you've got the ones where they did stuff with Jelly Roll or Tech 9 and they just don't work as well. So I think it's partly because they tried to step outside their genre that it didn't work as well. I appreciate what Will's saying, that he liked it, but for me that was kind of where the album fell down a bit. I'm not that much of a fan of Jelly Roll, so that's the way it goes.
It was just bizarre because it was one of those albums, the 4 other albums I didn't give points to, I was very comfortable not giving points to, but this one I actually genuinely wanted to give points to. But anyway, it didn't happen. For me there was there was better stuff in there. Okay, in 13th place is P.O.D. and their album Veritas. That surprised you because it actually was one of our top-rated albums, but really the champion for this was Dom. Dom, this is your number 2. This was your number 2 album. So
yeah, I loved it. I mean, they're a great band. I love them. They come from a faith heritage. They're a Christian metal band, and it's just so it's for me, it's the acceptable area for new metal. They're just punchy, something kind of brittle about their sounds. It's big power grooves. What's not to love in something like that? It's great. Big choruses to sing along to, and there's something again. It feels like a bit of a tribute back to the '90s. I love it. And you've got like Randy Blythe, guest singer on there, haven't you? From Lamb of God, he's on one track, I think. So yeah, I loved the album. I thought it was really solid all the way through.
Do you know when I first listened to it? Pretty much most, other than Paul and Andy, who didn't score it, everybody else kind of it was kind of like hovering around their top 10 sort of area, and so people kind of it did get into I give it a point. And I wanted to, when I listened back on it, I was actually quite excited to listen to it again. But when I listened back to it, I went, maybe it's a bit too eclectic for my taste, really, because it was a bit all over the place. But solid album for me. But yeah, scored well. Okay, in 12th place, and I think maybe this is the first surprise, which is in 12th place was Pain and I Am, which. Was probably the bottom of a very close pile from 60 to 77 points, really. This was kind of the bottom on that one. Myself and Cully rated this as our, in our top 5. It's our 4th favourite albums. And this album makes me smile like no other album in this list. It takes me to a place that is just... the humour in it, the punch, just a bit of everything in there. I don't know whether you agree, Chris. Obviously, you do agree because you rated this pretty highly as well, didn't you? So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the album when it came out, the only thing that I've got written down from my notes at the time was that it feels like chill techno rock and me likey. Yeah. I think it was interesting. At the same time that we were listening to it, I discovered that they've done a cover of Eleanor Rigby, and I know that there's some people on the call at the moment that don't like covers, but it's a brilliant cover as far as I'm concerned. And it takes something to be able to cover Beatles and make it work, but that really does. It's not on the album there, so not quite the same. But yeah, the album itself was just, again, it's waking up the warm fuzzy feelings inside as you listen to it, and yeah, like I say, there's some brilliant humour in the lyrics. And slightly twisted way of looking at things sometimes, but we like that as well. There are 5 albums here that only one person didn't give it points, and it's the first of the 5 albums that only one person did give it points to, which I'm surprised at when I saw the person who didn't give any points to this, which was Dom. This did not really. I thought no. But then I look at your top 5, and it just doesn't surprise me, to be perfectly honest with you, because you are probably the most eclectic person in the group. Yeah. So, but here we go.
I just found the techno beat just really grated with me. It's just like, after about the first 30 seconds of the first song, I just didn't enjoy it. It just doesn't connect well, and maybe that's personal taste. I kind of felt like I was at a rave, but I put headphones on and I was trying to listen to some rock music, but the beat from the rave was kind of like bleeding in through the headphones, you know what I mean? And I'm just, I was not happy. I kind of get the vibe of what they're after, but it doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, I just think it was a bit different. And William, it was just outside your top 5, which was nice and surprised. You kind of got you like that electro kind of techno kind of rhythm in your rock music, don't you?
Something electric call boy something. What gave that away?
I know.
Is this the word techno right behind me?
You're right.
It's giving my secrets away.
Well spotted.
It's again. I did really like it, but it was the tough thing of this top 7 odd albums were the ones that I really liked, and so the ones that I had to figure out where they were going to go, and it was unfortunately just missed out on being any higher up by virtue of having more attachment to the albums above it. But it was a really cool album either way.
Now, nice to see that Andy obviously rated this album quite highly as well, because it was this was something you were about to go back and listen to for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I really liked it. I gave it 9 points, was it?
You did.
Yeah, so not too bad. Yeah, it's good. It's just like there was about the top 5 were sort of like slotted in when I listened to them for me, and then it's just like that was then at the top end of the other songs, and the rest of sort of the next 10, which is like those are ones which you got to sort of place somehow, and that one came on at the top. So really good.
Cool. Right. Well, we're almost at the top 10. Almost. What didn't quite make the top 10? And this is a bit cruel because the album that didn't quite make the top 10 only didn't get in the top 10 on a tie break. On a tie break, which is quite cool. But for me, this is a stellar debut album, which is Love Boxx and Save Me, which got into 11th place, which was not only Trish's wildcard, but her number 1 album, Trish. I mean, what an album. What a debut album from this band. They've come from nowhere, were recommended to us. They come from Buffalo, New York. What a debut album.
Absolutely. You know, they asked me, could we review their albums? So obviously, you know, we said yes. Didn't know their genre of music. And, you know, for me, it had the Black Orchid Empire vibes crossed with Night Thieves. I just bloody brilliant debut album. I'm gutted that it didn't get into the top 10, but you know, let's see what comes from it in the future. Oh,
excited! I think for me, the fact it was an EP, maybe it might have got heavier because it's very similar to Everygrey, but I preferred Everygrey because it was a full album and it was a bit deeper from that side of things as well. Cully, you rated this highly as well. Your number 5 album. Going to your top 5.
I did, yeah. It's just the combined sound of all of the music and with her lyrics as well. There's just a beautiful contrast to it. Every song felt distinct and different. I think you're probably right. The fact that it was only an EP made it quite a short album, which for me just left me wanting more and more of it. So that's kind of why it probably got up there, because there's very much a case of I want to listen to more of this. I want to listen to more of this. There are a couple of extra songs on Spotify for those of you that go out and look for it. But yeah, the EP is quite short, and so it just left you wanting more. And I think it really helped with that.
Her voice is stunning, absolutely stunning.
Absolutely,
really.
Yeah.
And Dom, you would not have reviewed this, and you would have taken this you would have listened to this for the first time in terms of reviewing the albums, and you rated this quite highly
I just love it. Amazing kind of bass tones in there, thunderous drums, really power music in there, and it's just got that strong kind of, I don't know, slightly emo rock vibe that I enjoyed it. I thought it was debut. It's pretty awesome, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing more from them, and hopefully it'll be a fully album rather than an EP. But there we go. So okay, we're about to get into the top 10, but before we get into our top 10, let's find out what our guilty pleasure was, because like there must be albums in there that everybody else will hate. So I'll start off by saying, for example, and I can't help myself, and I've gone back and double checked it, but I adore the Travis album. I absolutely adore it. And there's a song in there which is really stupid called The Bus, which me and my daughter sing all the goddamn time, and you lot will probably absolutely hate it, but it's a guilty pleasure, right? It defies everything that I love about what my real love of rock music is, but it's very kind of rock pop, and I absolutely love the Travis album. How about you, Lauren? Was there any guilty pleasures out there? It didn't even have to be rock. It just could be a guilty pleasure that you could not stop listening to that would go like, we would go, oh, really?
So I am known about The Office for those who know my music taste. I like my heavy metal and stuff like that. However, I listen to a lot of different stuff. I am the classic person when someone goes, oh, what do you like listening to? I'm like, I like listening to an eclectic mix. And it's that sort of...
Do you do that voice as well? If you do that
I do that voice as well, exactly. Of course, I've not done the show for that long, but out of the stuff from the show, the Kasabian album, the very first one I did, has been a bit of a go back to and really enjoy it. But in general, I've been getting quite into Chapel Roan and stuff like that. Like really poppy, like gets you into it. It's been a really like fun discovery.
Yeah, my daughter plays Chapel Roan, and I do like tap a few fingers to it, but there we go. So Trish, let's go to our other rock chick, Trish. how about you? Any guilty pleasures?
Yeah, I mean, we went to see them a couple of weeks ago, and my guilty pleasure is Collateral. Should have known better. It's the 80s, long hair, bare chest, rock, and they deliver every single time you see them. I was singing along, I was in my own little world, and yeah, that album I could listen to again and again, as well as their other album. Yeah, Collateral, my guilty pleasure.
Yeah, I got to say, similar to them, we do New Roses, and they got a song called Four Wheels, which is very kind of 80s. I just love it. I just love it. Chris, how about you?
So I almost hesitate to mention this because I've rated 2 albums quite low this year because I didn't like the albums at all, but there are songs on them that I did quite like. And I'm not a fan of the script at all. But, and I'm now trying to find the name of the song because I've lost it, Home Is Where the Hurt Is, which was on Satellites back in September, was a brilliant song in an otherwise terrible album as far as I was concerned. And one that I'm a bit happier to admit to, AWOL Nation, which happened to also be from September, Panoramic Views was a brilliant song, again, on an otherwise not that great album, unfortunately. But yeah, so there's a couple of real highlights in terms of songs on albums that I otherwise didn't like. I think those are the 2 that sort of stand out for me.
Dob?
My guilty pleasure is always country music. I don't know why. Orville Peck is my favourite. I think he's awesome. But anything, Johnny Cash. I've got a Johnny Cash tattoo. Actually, I like Johnny Cash so much. But yeah, if I don't want to listen to metalcore or some really heavy stuff, I love my real alternative, off the wall stuff. It's a bit of really lovely musical, sing along, gentle country music. Lulls you into another world. It's amazing.
I can't ever see William saying that, but let's find out what he's going to say. So, Will?
Bold of you to assume that I'm guilty about any of the music I listen to. I embrace every single thing.
Yes, that's the way.
Right.
I work proud of myself. I listen to such stupid, eclectic mix of songs that I can't afford to be guilty about any of it. Honestly, from the stuff we've reviewed, all the stuff that I really liked is here anyway. But the album discovery that I made this year was an album from 2020 by a band called The Amazing Devil, which is like a dramatic alt folk album. I love folk music; it's awesome, and it's the lead singer is the guy who played Jaskier in The Witcher, and he's just awesome. But it's actually I've just listened to that so much this year, and it's just really cool. And I'm classing it as guilty just because it's something that wouldn't seem to be me, but man, folk music's awesome.
Fantastic. Andy, how about you?
I'm just waiting for what Nigel's going to say of this one. But what my guilty pleasure this year, Liam Gallagher, John Swire album. Really, really great. Because I just know he's just waiting to say something, Nigel. He's just waiting to say something. There's some really great songs on there. Obviously, you got Liam Gallagher, that needs no introduction of Oasis. John Swire, guitarist of Stone Roses. Wonderful stuff.
Oh no! The whole point is that when I say guilty pleasure, you can't have a go at anybody's guilty pleasure because it's a guilty pleasure.
Oh, don't then.
And I'm not going to. I'm not going to. Simon, how about you? Last but not least, or least but not last.
No guilt here, only pleasure. Enjoy your music, own it. My slightly off-piste choice, because I don't like saying guilty pleasure, because it's music, just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Weirdly, I've been listening to Zealand Arda slightly more. I didn't rate that album very highly at all, but it's more of their back catalogue that I've been listening to. But yeah, I just keep playing some of their tracks. They just keep coming up on Spotify. So yeah, that's my sort of like weird little choice from this year.
Cool. Right. Okay. Guilty pleasure. Let's get into our top 10. Oh, how exciting, isn't it? Who is going to win? Will it be Future Palace, our top-rated album? Will it be? Will Visions get it? Will Fame on Fire get it? Will Nothing More get it? Will Daughtry get it? Will Atreyu, Hot Damn, The Warning? Oh, they're all great albums. They're all great albums. Right, okay. Our top 10 in 10th place is... Well, they've come from absolutely nowhere, but to get into the top 10 has been amazing, and that is The Hot Damned with Dancing the Milky Way, which was Andy's wild card and Andy's number one rated album. Yeah, Andy, I mean, what's not
well,
to
definitely
love?
out the songs, definitely out the albums of the two shows I did. That was the one which I enjoyed without doubt the most. And obviously, I went through, listened to all the songs which have been throughout the year, but no, I'd still enjoyed that one the most, without a doubt. Put a smile on my face, really enjoyed it, so had to do it, had to put it as my number one.
Trish, it was your number 3 album.
Yeah, I mean, I'd seen them live, so I put it forward for review because I knew it was going to be released. So yeah, I'm really, really pleased it made the top 10. Good job.
Yeah, it was Paul's number 6 album. Everybody give this points apart from William. William didn't like a bit of
so proud of
rock
himself.
and roll because this is pure unadulterated rock and heavy rock and roll is how I would describe it. All female
Yes.
band
Heavy, yes. Heavy.
for rock and roll.
Enough said.
For rock and roll, it was. But surprisingly, and Simon, you said that this surprised you. You actually quite enjoyed this album. I mean, you didn't give it many points, but you did give it points.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe if it had been on our stage or something, I might have given it some more because obviously I had a bit more time with it. But it was pretty good actually, just for it's pretty decent. That's why I gave it points.
Yeah, no, it's a cracking album and a debut album as well. And I mean, they're all female band. And I think they're terrific, absolutely terrific. Yeah, Paul going to 6th place. Okay, in 9th place is Atreyu and the Beautiful Dark of Life, which was Dom's wild card. But it was Trish's number 2 album. Trish.
Yeah. And saw them live. Cully, Dom, we were there. Southampton.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Bloody amazing. Love them. Love them. Love them.
And Will top is your 6th favourite album, and Dom also 6th favourite album, and Cully 6th favourite album. So you all give this kind of 10 points.
666.
Chris, let's start with you.
Yeah, so as a couple of people said, the only reason it wasn't in my top 5 was because it got pushed out by one of the other albums. It's a brilliant album, and as Trish says, seeing them live was amazing. It's one of the first times that I've seen lead singer so willing just to get down into the crowd, and it was just such a chill vibe while he was down there. It was brilliant.
And Dom?
Yeah, and what I did love about the band is that they are so kind of upbeat for the style of music they've got. It's like really positive, uplifting, full of joy, while at the same time like knocking your socks off with just power rock, hardness in there as well. And it's just a great mix. You've got to see them live if you haven't seen them live, because they were just absolutely delivered a show. And I think it comes across on albums as well. I think the energy of the band just really shines out. They're just awesome.
Yeah, and William, last one, didn't quite get into your top 5, but it must be knocking on the door.
I mean, when you look at the albums in my top 5, there was no way anything was ever breaching that level of things I put in there. But this was just really cool, and genuinely, just Insomnia just hit me far too much again. Listen to that song, and that song has brought it so much higher. As now, oh man, it takes places. That song is incredible.
Yeah, me and Paul didn't give any points, and it's one of those albums where I just don't get it. I really genuinely don't get what all the fuss is about. It just didn't tick my boats. But bizarrely, I accidentally I tuned into an album and I thought I was listening to the album, and actually I thought, oh my god, this is fantastic. And it was Atreyu. This is absolutely brilliant. Why have I not rated this album? And I realised I was listening to the wrong album, and it was their re-engineered songs, which didn't have any screamo in it at all, and no metalcore, and it was bloody fantastic. And I'm going like, well, if they produce an album like that, which is non-screamo, non-metalcore, I'm going to absolutely love it. But yeah, it didn't kind of float my boat, but it obviously did. 65 points, did super well. Top 10 album. Okay, in 8th place is Dead Poet Society and their album Fisson, which was, well, first of all, it was my number 2 album of the year. I absolutely, when it comes to what I would say heavy indie rock, this is the tour de force of it. And at one point it was it was 3 albums for me that kept swapping over, and then I settled this is my number 2. I just for my tick in the box in terms of indie rock, and a more heavier indie rock, this just was a fantastic album. Foot tapping, absolutely brilliant. Paul agreed with me, it was his number 4, and Lauren, now it was also your number 4 album, so this is an album that you hadn't listened to or reviewed. Had you listened to them prior to the top 20 or not?
So, never even heard of them, to be honest, and it's one of those situations where I kind of love it when that happens, especially with, like, the show has given me an opportunity to listen to so much new music that otherwise I wouldn't necessarily find, and it's just fantastic. I really loved it. It was really cool. I really liked the fact that it had a bit of a nostalgic vibe for me, in the sense that because it had that indie rock vibes, it's the sort of stuff that what got me into the genre. Because it was that nice sort of midway of, if you heard it on the radio or somewhere more mainstream, then you wouldn't bat an eyelid, but it also has a place in that heavier side where it's like, okay, this is a segue point that can really get you into some new sounds. So I just really appreciated it from that front. I just thought it was really good.
Again, the only person that didn't give us any points was William. Didn't float your boat, William.
I'm noticing a trend here, which is unsurprising. And I fear we have to hear these words being said at least one more time today.
Indeed.
It's just not me, is it?
Let's be honest. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So, okay. Now, from 7th to 2nd, literally is separated by 4 points. Literally. So the next album got 73. The band in second got 77. And it was very interesting in the sense of, like, 3 of the bands ended up on 76 points, and they bring by tiebreaker. So that's how close our kind of voting kind of was, really, from that perspective. So in 7th place is Daughtry and their album Shock to the System, which was, I'm delighted to welcome another fan of Daughtry to the fold, which was Chris. Chris, your number 1 album.
Yeah, very much so. I think it may partly be helped by where it came in the year, because it's been relatively recently that we reviewed it. But I just thought this was brilliant, start to finish. It's the atmosphere they put into the music, the sound of it, the contrast between the lyrics and the tone of the music, just really set things off for me, and it was brilliant. It happened to be that I was listening to this on the drive up to quite a long drive as well, but it went on 3 or 4 times over the course of that drive. Another short album. I think it's an EP rather than a full album, but again, left me wanting more each time I listened to it. So yeah, really good.
It's a part 1 of a part 2 album, and I'm going like, oh, why didn't you just put the whole album together? And it probably would have been my number 1 album, but yeah. Paul, this was his 3rd favourite album, rated really highly, and so we went to watch them at the Royal Albert Hall with myself, Paul, and a lady called Gilla who went to watch them. So, you know, on the next time, Cully, you're going to have to join the band when they come on tour, because it was at the Royal Albert Hall, and they did a duet with Lizzie from Hellstorm, and it was just amazing. It was amazing.
Sign me up.
I know, right? She was absolutely fantastic. Andy, your 4th favourite album. Had you heard Daughtry come across your palette before the show?
Yeah, I've heard a few of his previous albums, but this one definitely was the strongest, I think, of the albums which he's done. Well, it's EP as well, but yeah, really good, really strong, really powerful. I really enjoyed it as well. It was really great.
Yeah, and it was obviously heavy enough for Will to give it points.
It was very, very cool, but I couldn't. The irony of me putting SpiritBox in 3rd, I couldn't put an EP any higher than where it was.
No.
SpiritBox is the exception because they're cool.
And me and Paul were kind of talking about it, and I think the fact it was an EP maybe kind of like, I just held it back a little bit. But not giving any points was Trish and Simon. No, not your boat.
EP.
Yeah.
Well, so Love Box, and now you give it number 1.
I wouldn't class that as an EP because it's got a few more songs on it. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the album, but there was just other stuff in there.
Oh no, absolutely. No, I'm not going to question that at all. So, okay, in 6th place, we're almost at our top 5, and is Future Palace and Distortion, and number 6. I mean, like literally, it was that kind of close. It's one of those albums that really divided everybody. Not quite as much as another album that we'll talk about, but this very much. So, William, your number 1 album. Dom, you hadn't reviewed this, but it was your number 1 album as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Full of hooks. Loved it. It's kind of like a really developed, mature, hardcore mix of light and dark, especially in the vocals. And yeah, I just thought it was really beautiful. It's kind of an emotional album as well. It's got really like quite intense theme, hasn't it? It's about being overwhelmed. There's like issues around mental health, and it just feels like a really real album. It's kind of like when the sound and the vocals actually match the energy of the whole thing, really. So yeah, it was a real solid groove as well. I love it when it's got meaning and it's emotional, but it also rocks your socks off. It's great. I thought it was an amazing album.
And William, your number 1 album, we know, you know.
Yeah, no one's surprised. I mean, for all the reasons Dom just mentioned, this album again released at. I mean, I cannot overstate the fact that it came out when I needed it to this year.
Yeah.
And it did so much for me, and it is just an absolute masterpiece. Echoes of Disparity was my 2nd most listened to song this year. Dream State, Decarabia, Amethyst are all. Yeah. Every song in this album is a 10 out of 10 for me, and it's. Yeah. I cannot express just how phenomenal this is, and just how much it means just this band as a whole. There.
Yeah, Lauren, your number
Fantastic.
2. Lauren, your number 2 album.
Yeah, I fell in love with it. It was one of those where at first I was listening to it, and at first I was like, oh, I think I've just heard something quite special. And one of the things that sort of reaffirmed that for me, as I was listening through the playlist of albums we were reviewing that month, I was itching to get through the rest just so I could go back and listen to Future Palace again. It was one of those things where I'd get excited to loop around again. And like I've said before, I said it when we reviewed it at the time, like, for that sort of sound, the only place I've otherwise really sort of gotten it is from like bands like Bring Me the Horizon and stuff like that. So the fact it brought all that modernism, but with the gut punch that is feminine rage behind those vocals, is just totally gorgeous. Loved every bit of it.
Yeah, Simon, it was your number 4. That must be. But I empathise with you, because that must have hurt, because you probably wanted to give this higher.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure my top 5 all wanted to be number 1, and unfortunately they just can't all be. So
yeah.
But yeah, it was a very, very tough decision between my top choices, and I wanted to give it more, but yeah, it's an amazing album, a fantastic band. Yeah,
I mean, and bizarrely, you would have thought Trish and Andy crept to just about give it a point, but so Paul and for me, I really wanted to give this points, but it just that level of metalcore was just too much, because some of the songs that weren't metalcore were absolutely, like Decarabia, it was absolutely outstanding, and there was just too much. It was too much screamo for me at the end of the day, and but. Out of all the albums, like, you might say I don't get it with something like Atreyu, for example. I get it. I genuinely, with Future Palace, I get it. I really do get it. Yeah. And well, it just goes to show, just because the 2 sides of the coin in terms of the 2 stages that we do with the 2 types of music. just because one absolutely loves it doesn't mean it's going to get album of the year. But still, I mean, for a metalcore album to finish 6th is pretty damn good, really, isn't it? And literally just like a couple of points out of being in the top 5. Well, 1 point from me, actually 2 points from the top 5. So. It's getting close now, isn't it? What is going to be our number 1 album? We're now into the top 5. Would it be Fame on Fire? Will it be Visions of Atlantis? Will they get it for a second time? Will it be Nothing More? Will it be the Struts? Will it be the Warning? Oh my God! Right, out of the albums I'm about to do, 2 of the albums got points from everybody. Absolutely everybody give points. And the first one of those was in 5th place. Which was The Warning and Keep Me Fed. Now, the biggest one was from Andy. Andy, your number 2 album, my friend, and that's you would have not reviewed this band until you've listened to the top 20.
No, but I have heard them. I did heard them earlier in the year when they came out. I did put one of their songs in for a song quest.
Oh, did you now? There we go. Right. Okay.
Came second. So, obviously quite a popular one. Weirdly enough, actually, my top 2 were all female groups this year. Weird. That's good. Fantastic. So, there you go. Yeah, no, good, proper, great rock. Yeah, the songs just hit you like a brick. So, I really enjoyed it. Loved it. Fantastic.
And I think this as well because it was Paul's, Dom's, and Lauren's fourth album. So Lauren, your number 4 as well. Is it again another band that was new to you?
Yeah, totally new, and I was really chuffed listening to it because sort of like it's one of those things where I love a female-fronted band, but I think because the standard is so high in the industry, I mean, you've got some artists where like. It's good, but some just take it to the next level. So I think when you can really get someone who can bring it to the plate and do it well, it's just really, really, really enjoyable. And the only reason it was where it was is because other things pipped it. But if those things had not been there, it would have done even better because it's just got some really, really cool vibes to it. It's got great riffs, some cool beats. Love it.
Yeah, Dom, your number 4 as well, mate, or number 5.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think it's when a band knows what they're supposed to do, they know what the assignment is, and it's just like to bring some good fun, hard, heavy alt rock, really, I guess you'd call it. The musicianship is really there. It's a great album. It's a solid album. And I think they've just completed the task brilliantly. And great sound. Their other stuff is really good as well. And lots of fun to listen to. Some people might say it's a bit predictable. It's a little, it doesn't really go outside the box a lot. But like I say, I think sometimes there's something really nice about, a band that knows what it's doing and just does it well. And I think they're great.
Yeah, I mean, it got into my top 10, but I wanted to give it more. Genuinely, one of those albums, I really wanted to give it higher, but I just couldn't because of the albums that for me that would, don't know, really, really kind of hard for you from that perspective as well. But yeah, and it literally lost or didn't get into higher because of just literally on countback. From that perspective. Right, okay. We are now getting closer. We are getting closer to our album of the year. 4 more to go. In 4th, and it's kind of interesting just to say that the last 4, the number 1 album is finished in 6th place. Our number 3 album was finished in 12th. So the last 4 albums are all finished in our top 4. So, Struts, Fame on Fire, Visions all finished joint 4th. Nothing More was our 2nd highest rated album. But we already know that just because, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to win. So, in 4th place is Fame on Fire and the Death Card, which was Lauren's number 1 album. She said, oh no, damn it.
Yeah. I mean, it went up against some great competition, and I mean, like for me, it just holds like a bit of a sweet spot because it was one of those things where I heard "Suicide the Lovers" in one of the mixes that your streaming platform throws at you when it's like, oh, you've listened to this, you might like this. So it was one of those where I heard that, listened to Patches as it was being released, and then when I saw the whole album had come out and we'd put it on for review, I just got really excited, and I cannot stress enough how much I bloody love this album. It's just got a good variety of everything thrown in, and it's a concept done really well. I just really, really loved that. Like, they knew what they're doing and they executed it just how they wanted to. So it's one of those things where listen to them a bit before, and having listened to this, I would happily go out of my way to go see them. So yeah, just really, really loved it. Easy top spot for me.
Cully, rated highly. Your number 3.
Yeah, very much so. So it didn't come up on the stage for me to review this year, so it was new as we were going through the album of the year, and it just really struck a chord. It was kind of like a bolt from the blue sky. I wasn't expecting it at all. There's a lot of nuance and variety in the album itself, and it is, as I understand it, there's a lot of metalcore in there, which you wouldn't expect me to rate highly. But they, as I've always said with it, when you balance metalcore well and it fits into the emotion of the song at the time, and I understand the emotion of the song at the time, I think it's another part to it that I don't always get with some metalcore, then it really works for me, and it was just really good. And if you do happen to go to see him and you need someone else to come with you, can I sign up too?
Yeah. It was definitely pushing my top 5, and certainly pushing Trish's top 5 as well, just outside.
Yeah, I just thought it was really clever the way they did it with the tarot cards, and the light bulb went off as I was listening to it. Very clever. I have to say, deep down I thought this might have got the number 1 slot, but 4th place still pretty darn good.
Yeah, I think my tolerance is maybe 10% metalcore. If it goes above that, I start switching off. And this kind of bordered that line, and very much it was any metalcore. And it was short, sharp, to the point, articulated, and accentuated the song. So for me, whenever I say I only like metalcore, this is it. This would be the epitome of how much I like that metalcore to accentuate an album, an incredibly clever album. And the only person who didn't think that was Andy. And he just and the only person that didn't give this any points, Andy.
What can I say? Sorry, but not sorry really. Nah, not quite my bag.
That's fine. Even Paul gave it points. Even Paul, and even he said he was giving points. And Simon, just outside your top 5 as well.
Yeah, I mean, as I said this in the review, it's not bad. It's a pretty decent album. I liked the tarot theme, although it makes saying the name of the songs a bit wordy outside of the context of the album. But yeah, it's my only gripe is that the songs were a little bit samey. But yeah, it's all right. Pretty good.
So, William, was this the last album that you wanted to give points to, or were you forced to give points as the best of the,
This was my last level of stuff I was willing to give points to.
Excellent. Okay, who is going to be the number 1 album? Will Nothing More be in carnal delight? Will Visions of Atlantis be raging with their Armada? Will the Struts be strutting? Let's find out. Our top 3 albums of the year are. In 3rd place is the Struts and Pretty Vicious. We talked about guilty pleasures at the end of the day, and this totally split the panel entirely. You either absolutely loved this album or you absolutely hated it. There's nothing in between. There's nothing between, because 5 people voted for it, 4 people didn't even vote for it. The 4 people that did rated it really highly. It was Paul's number 1 album. Absolutely raved about this. Dom, it was your number 3. What?
Yeah.
Just.
I mean, it's great. Oh, the lead singer, he comes off like he's like the love child of Mick Jagger and Freddie Mercury. That was my feeling of that. He's got the vibes of it. He's got the voice. He's got this real amazing Mick Jagger kind of early 60s Mick Jagger style to him. But then there's that kind of hair metal influence in the sound. There's a lot of kind of Aerosmith, Def Leppard sound to it. Real crowd pleasing music. It's kind of, I love that type of music. Is like festival music to me. It's the kind of music that you have to listen to with a beer in your hand, the sun shining on you. You want to hear the band outdoors, on a stage outside, and it just brings all of the album, like, really brought that back. It's okay. There's nothing really fresh or really edgy about it, but does anybody really want that? I don't think so. We just want a beer in our hand and we just want to listen to some music. And I thought, yeah, they got the swagger right, and they got the feel that you want from that kind of music.
Andy, you're number 3 as well, mate.
Definitely, yeah. Well, I started listening to it. I thought, yeah, this is right up my street for it. Sort of, yeah. You said like Mick Jagger. I'd say Primal Scream. Bobby Gillespie kind of vibes with that, a little bit of glam rocky kind of stuff in there. Curious enough, yeah, all my top 3, very upbeat, very kind of like happy, good party music. I think actually this year. So. What that says, I don't know, but yeah, definitely there, and definitely really good.
Yeah, mine and Trish's number 4 album. I mean, it just couldn't quite break in my top 3, which was really hard. But Trish, your number 4.
No, not my number 5.
Number 5. Sorry, yeah, it was your number. Yeah, it's our top 5 album. Sorry, you're right. Sorry, yeah.
You just can't listen to this and not smile. I mean, it's poppy. You can't sit in a chair and not move to this album. I would love to, like Dom said, if they played a festival, they would get the crowd bloody going with this album. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, made me happy.
Yeah, I loved it. It's just such a fantastic indie rock album. It's just so happy go. I love it. Foot tapping, easy going, absolutely. I just love this album. Absolutely adore it. So it's quite amusing because there was 2 votes to go, which was Lauren and Chris to go, and I'm thinking, oh my god, the Struts might win this. I think the Struts are going to win. Do you know what I mean? And I was by the coffee machine with Will, and I go like, he said, yeah, all the albums are good apart from that piece of shit Struts. I don't know what that was all about. I'm going like, oh my god, I can imagine if Will's face when Future Palace didn't win and the Struts took it home, and I'm going, well, I think Cully might give this points. I think it might be Cully's cup of tea. Not sure about Lauren, but I'm thinking, if Cully gives this good points, I'm thinking to myself, it's going to win. It's going to win. And I would be so happy for Paul, because Paul has sat there on 2 occasions going, like, what is all? When we announced the winner, and he goes, what's this all about? But yeah, not your cup of tea then, Carl and Lauren. Chris, no?
Well, so back in January, I think I was in a very strange mood because I actually gave this decent points in January, but listening back to it, they're not even pretty good at Raising Hell, which is what I said back in the. I think that they're all right, and Pretty Viscous was a pretty viscous song. It kind of just dragged a bit, and according to my notes, I quite liked it back in January. So I've changed as a person because I very much agree with Will. It just no points at all. It's actually at the bottom of my list. There is nothing that I wanted to give fewer points to.
I'm not even going to go to Will and Simon because I know what they're going to say, so it's pointless even going there. Yeah, go on then, Simon. Come on, tell us what you think of what you thought. What was it that bad?
If this album were playing at a festival, you're right. They would get the band. They would get the crowd going out the door. No,
they were playing a metalcore album a concert. Yeah, but here we go.
No, they're not that bad. They just, for me, it's just there's nothing in particular like magical or special that stands out. And with the amount of albums we review in the year, and the amount of bands we come into contact with, it just, for me, just personally, it just wasn't anything particularly like special or magical to them, unfortunately. But obviously, my taste is a lot heavier anyway. So, but yeah, that was just it. Just like, it's not that they were bad; they just weren't like. There's just such greatness already everywhere. It's difficult to break through that.
Very, very much. When you look at the pattern of the voting, this very much was the biggest split. As I say, you either scored like there wasn't even like the lowest points was 12. Obviously, you got 20. And or nothing. I mean, you know, even with like Future Palace got 2 20 to 14 and 18, a couple of ones, you know. But this split the panel the biggest from that one. You know, half as thought it was magical, the other half didn't even think it was worthy of getting in their points.
That's proving metalcore is in fact better. That's factual evidence right there. If everyone gave it points,
I know. Well, but just goes to show how this panel is. You know, our tastes are diverse.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it's got to be said. Sorry, not just to interrupt. It's got to be said. It is one of the ones that got into the Hall of Fame and got onto the list.
Yeah.
Without being a wild card from anyone. So when we listened to it and when we scored it, we all liked it. It's just over time there has been other stuff that has come in.
Completely. It was our joint fourth. It was our joint fourth favourite album of the year. And actually being where it is stood up to that fourth place. You know, definitely. So, okie dokie. Is it Nothing More or is it Visions of Atlantis? Will Visions of Atlantis get it for the second time? Or will Nothing More and Carnal take the biscuit? Let's talk about Visions first of all, because you're either going to be flying the flag and not deserting the goddamn ship, right? Okay, which is what me and Simon have done. We have stuck up there with the Jolly Roger flag. This is our number one album of the year. Simon, you first. Why was this your number one album of the year?
I mean, if you went back and listened to a review, you'd be surprised to hear me say that this is my number one album of the year. But no, the more I listened to it, the more I fell in love with it. It's just fantastic. It's just everything that Visions do, just more of. I was talking to Nigel about this previously, but if I put both of their albums side by side, their first album's still a 5, and this album's like a 4.99999. Like, it's really, really, really good. I just keep listening to it over and over again. There's just something magical about it. It's so many of the songs have made their way into my personal playlist. It's really, really fun. I can't wait to hopefully go and see them again next year. Hopefully they're touring again. So, it's just amazing. It's just a great album.
It's interesting because it was very much. I ummed and ahed between my top 3, and I'm going like, am I just being loyal for the sake of being loyal because I just say they're my favourite band? And similar to you, very, very close to being. The more you listen to this album, the deeper it is. It's actually got more layers to it than the previous album, but there was more kind of easier sing-along songs, I think. But and then my playlist from Amazon came out, and it says your number one album is Vision of Atlantis. Your number one song is Ashes to the Sea. Yeah, and then my top 50 songs, 4 of the first 10 songs were all from this album, and it just went. I obviously made the right decision for me personally, and absolutely loved it. William, Visions was your number 5, mate.
I mean, good though, is it?
At least you didn't completely jump ship, but you know, I mean,
well, it's looking back at it, I can still hear in my head and picture like every single song from the first album, but there's only maybe like 1 or 2 that actually come to mind of this one. It's obviously still very good, but I mean, it's the same like Linkin Park Hybrid Theory problem. Like, you release something so good, nothing stands up to it. And I mean, looking at obviously it's very new, but the streams of Pirate 2 versus the original Pirates album, and just there's a lot less consistency in how many people have listened to a lot of the songs in this and the original one, but it's still solid. But it's you know, they made something so perfect last time that It's just hard to hold a candle to that.
I think I had many shocks in this when we look at the voting, but the biggest shock, I've got to say, the biggest shock of it all was the betrayal, the desertion of the Armada that is Visions of Atlantis of the piratess Trish, who didn't even give this a point. Trish, how could you go from like album of the year, band of the year to not giving this any point? What that?
Well, I had this discussion with Bill, didn't I, the other day? And we both agreed Pirates, the first album. They set the benchmark. I remember every song. I can sing every song. It was okay. And, I have to say, this year, I have been on a journey that has opened me up to more metalcore music that I wouldn't have liked a year ago, and has just dug deeper into me, and I can't give something a point if it doesn't do that. And I'm afraid the Armada went down.
Well, out of justification, that has got to be the nicest justification I've got. But we've got new recruits, people, because all of Andy, Lauren and Chris all rated this quite highly. And so, Andy, it was your first time on board the pirate ship of Visions of Atlantis. You enjoyed?
Yeehaw. Well, not yeehaw. Ah!
Aha!
I was going cowboy there.
You were.
What was I doing there? Completely wrong. Yeah, no, I think for me, the top 4 albums for the year slotted in quite nicely. For me, just from my personal taste. Then there was a big sort of slab of really good stuff, but it was like jiggling that around just a little bit through for it. So I think I did give it 8 points, was it?
Yeah.
So it was still in that good, solid block, but that's where it was for me. So
it was lovely walking through the office, and Lauren just turned to me and went, "Oh, Visions of Atlantis! Oh my God! Yes! You love the album."
Yeah. So since I started working where I'm at now, one of the first questions I got asked when I had my little introductory chat with Nigel and that was like, "Oh, what sort of music are you into?" Stuff like that, because we like music here. And I was like, "Oh, well, I really like my rock and things like that." And he's like, "I know a band you'll love. Visions of Atlantis. You need to listen to it." But I'm one of those people where if someone tells me multiple times you need to do something, I will do malicious non-compliance and I will not do it.
Yeah.
So, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, cool, yeah, I'll put it on the list." And then I move on with my life. So when this was put on, and it was literally almost like someone went, "Right, it's in front of you now, you need to pay attention to it." I listened to it, and having not listened to them before, I'm sure I'd probably feel different from the vibes I'm getting from everyone else with regards to Pirates 1. But having listened to this, when I was chatting to Nigel, I was like, it just totally took me by surprise. Having not heard them before, I was like, that voice, the sound, the detail that's been paid attention to, the craft work that's been put into it. I was just like, wow. I went from someone who thought it would, on the face of it would be campy, piratey rock, that sort of thing. And it can be that in a few places, but it is done so well that I was like, do you know what? I'd go and watch that. That's really enjoyable. It gave the vibes of something where listening to it, that if you saw it live, it's just a fun time. Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, we watched them in Southampton, and me and Simon were absolutely gutted that we had to go and work. We were working in Germany when they came to London, because for me, even the gig in Southampton was probably it's definitely my top 3 gigs I've seen in my life. It was so good, so good. And Cully, you loved your Pirates. You rated highly as well.
I did, yeah. So I think kind of similar to Lauren, I was introduced to Visions of Atlantis in its entirety earlier this year. I listened to Pirates 1 in, I think, March, April sort of time. Partly because I was told to several times by Nigel and I hadn't listened, and he cornered me at Trish's birthday and said, "No, you have to listen to it." So I listened to it on the way home. And Pirates is a brilliant album. Pirates 2 didn't match, as people said, didn't match up to it. Because it was just then a case of, I think I possibly what's the word, just oversubscribed, over-listened to all of it at the same time, and so it was just such a step change between the first and the second, and then with everything else that we've got this year, it was a case of it's still rated high because it is a very, very good album. I do think Sinner's Blood, which came a couple of months later by Dark Horizons, is Dark Horizons by Sinner's Blood is a better pirate-themed album than Armada, but that's just the way it goes. But yeah, so this one, yeah, still rates quite high, and yeah, it's again lyrics, music, detail they paid to it in the album. I thought there was a little bit more cheese rubbed on this one than there was on the previous one, which again didn't help so much, but that's just how I felt about it at the time. But yeah, good albums, and for it to even get to close to the top spot shows how good it is. But there was stuff that was better.
Dom, is there any hope for you? Can we convert you to symphonic pirate metal?
Probably not. What's a pirate's favourite letter of the alphabet?
Go on.
Anybody? Favourite letter of the alphabet?
R.
No, it would be the C.
I think you'd find the C be there first, love.
There is no correct answer to that because there's always
no, there is no one. No, you all got it. No, I'm afraid not. It's just. Oh, I don't know. I can't take it seriously, and it feels a bit kind of Disney. I don't know. Yeah, symphonic metal's not my thing. I mean, I can. Technically proficient, it's really well produced, they're very skilled, it's don't knock any of that at all. I think the quality of the album is amazing. For me, I just find it hard to take it seriously or to feel anything much in it apart from like watching a Disney movie. Don't get much out of that either.
So in contrast, which is the Nothing More, so one of these two albums that got album of the year with Nothing More, it was nobody's top album. Nobody rated this as their number one album. Simon, you rated this as your number 2 album. I rated this as my number 3 album, and it was very much. At one point, it was my number 1 album. But let's start with you, Simon, because you rated it the highest of everybody. Your number 2 album, not metalcore, not symphonic metal, not power metal. What resonated for you with this album then?
It has an intro track that actually goes into the first song immediately. Top album of the year. That's it. Instantly sold. The only album of the entire year with the intro track actually is part of the album. No, it's just. I think I said about this in my original review. It's just. There's just something really beautiful about the album actually as a whole, which is kind of what we're reviewing here. And they're just like, his vocals are absolutely beautiful, and there's lots of variety in sort of their styles and the sampling tracks that they have. I'm trying to remember the one in particular. I think it's Heart, which has things to do with the fish going up river and stuff like that. Like, it's just really cool. Like, If It Doesn't Hurt is an amazing track. Yeah, just overall, like, the album was really, really good. It just caught me by surprise at how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah, Lauren, me and you rated this our 3rd favourite album, and you would not have listened to this album prior to the top 20, or had you?
I had.
Oh.
So, I had come across this a little while ago, and I made a point of talking to Trish about it. Because I said, I've listened to this band, because one of our little rituals is, like, at the end of the week, me and Trish will have a little chat. She makes me my cup of tea, because she's an angel like that. She brings it through, and I go, you heard anything you really enjoyed this week? We have a little chat. And one of the things I mentioned, I was like, there's this band. There's Nothing More. They've got an album coming out, and some of it, what they've released so far, is really cool. I think it'd be up your street. And she's like, I'll go check. And then I literally received a message, like 10 minutes later, going, it's on the list of albums that we're going to review. Never have I felt more on the pulse of music and cool in my life when I heard that. Because I was like, yeah, I'm down with the kids. I'm fresh. I know what's up there. So yeah, listening to that, it was it was really enjoyable. So when I saw that it had made it into the top and we got to listen to it again, I was just really happy about that. Like, yes, there were other things that I enjoyed more, but I just find it such a solid album because it's just got that vibe where you could just get into it with like some of the ways that it gets sung and the rhythm of it and how it goes, like If It Doesn't Hurt and stuff like that. Like, just the section where he's going, knives in the back, ready to attack. I'm like, yeah, it's just brilliant. I love stuff like that. It really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, for a while it was my number one album, and my top three albums kept changing, and it got my number three, and there is something so different that when we listen to 158 albums and nobody has done it, and whether it's poetry or monologue, I think the Germans had a version called Sprechen Sie Sang, is a word for what is called spoken singing, which is more commonly known as speaking in English, as an expression of musical vocal techniques between singing and speaking. And it doesn't quite fit, because there's something called Sprechen Sie Timmy, or time as well, which is kind of a similar thing, which is the earliest composition use of a technique was first used by Engelbert Humperdinck, melodrama on Kingserkinden, and so it has that monologue poetry, or if you like, Sprechen Sie Sang, which then dovetails into the actual song, and they match. They match. The thing about the river, of people going up and down the river, it's so... Oh my God! It sets you up emotionally that you then get the lyrics of the song, and it's just sublime how they've done it. And in some respects, I mean, Will mentioned about transcending different types of music. This does, because there is hard hitting metalcore style, angry singing to the more melodic kind of singing. It does transcend a lot of genres in the album, but that poetry monologue combination is so... I hadn't heard anything like it, and we're always looking for something different. Dom, you also rated this very highly. It was your number 4 album. What do you think? Why? What resonated with you?
I mean, I think it's a heavy album, but it's intelligent as well. It's obviously meant to be something really primal and forceful about it. It's called Carnal, for goodness sake. I thought sometimes, if a slight criticism, I think sometimes his vocals, he had to stretch a little bit just to make the kind of impact. And the focus for me was much more on the music, which it's got lots of experimentation, the programming stuff, and the sampling was really good. It made me feel a little bit like Fall Out Boy. It was giving me Fall Out Boy vibes, I could see in that, which I'd rate as a good thing. It's just great. A great kind of, I think, intro album into heavy music, if that makes sense. It was a good, and I thought it done exceptionally well as to what it was trying to do. So, yeah, I rated it really well.
Cully, you've rated this reasonably highly. Didn't quite get into your top 6, but I think it was number 7 or something for you.
Yeah, that's right. It beat Visions of Atlantis in my list as well. Again, it was just a case of when you stack them up with the stuff that I rated higher, which we discussed all of them now because I have better taste than you guys. So it's just the case that it got knocked down the list. It was like you said, the combination of factors they put into it, which melds so well and just fits everything. It's the right balance of full metalcore and effectively clean lyrics, and as you were saying, that whole sort of the spoken lyrics that then feeds into the rest of the song, it effectively builds up as you go through. So it was really good for me. It's just there was other stuff that sort of hit close to home.
Andy and Will didn't quite get into top 10, which is kind of on the lower spectrum of things. Andy, what did you think of this?
Yeah, I think you did get my top 10. Again, it's one of those, it's solid in the pack, but it just didn't have enough to really step up for me. It was quite varied. It did have it, but it just didn't shine out enough, because maybe it's trying to do lots of stuff, but it just didn't get there for me. So it was where it was, but still good. It's still extremely solid. That's where it was.
Will, no, yes,
it was an album. Had songs. They need to turn caps lock off when they're typing, because
Half the
really
bloody
annoys
bands
me.
that we review now need to do that. It's become a thing, hasn't it?
It annoys me when it's all
Yeah.
just. So I liked the song with the growling singer from I Prevail in it. That was cool, but it's all right. It was an album. Enough
Anyway.
said. A pleasure.
So, we have our second most rated album of the year, Nothing More on Carnal, against Visions of Atlantis, which was our joint fourth album of the year. It seems that a lot of love, a lot of across the board. What will it be? What will be our album of the year? I'll just say this now, both albums are fantastic. It was a worthy winner. No matter which album you get, both of these albums are fantastic. However, the MPJ Album of the Year, our third album, which we're going to rate as our number one album of the year, is Nothing More, and Carnal is our number one album, and by a country mile, by 19 points. Everybody rated this album. The lowest rated was Trish with a 4. And Trish, I'm going to finish with you because we talked about everything else. Paul rated this very highly, almost got into his top 5. Trish, you also give it good points. I know you actually like the album as well, just a bit more stuff that you preferred. So,
Yeah, I mean, what a top 20 that you have to choose from. It's difficult. They all deserve a place, and again, we all hear different things, which is why we've given them different points. But yeah, I'm well pleased it got a number one.
I mean, the previous years have been like a couple of points between the top two albums. I mean, last year there was like 1 point between it, and everybody would say, well, it should have been a joint thing, but this was a clear winner. I mean, a clear winner. Like, in terms of the amount of points garnered across the board, everybody has rated this album really, really highly. So congratulations to Nothing More. What a fantastic album. And the cycle's broken because like one of us has always picked like their top albums to become the number one, and for the first time, I'm a bit gutted now. I swapped them, and about like I kept swapping, but there we go. I kept my trend running, but it doesn't matter. Nothing More and Carnal. I listened to it in the car this morning, and I went, oh yeah, it was a bloody good album, fantastic album. So there we
See
go.
what happens when you have an intro that goes into the.
I know, right? That's all you need.
That's the key. The key to making a great rock track is to do that.
And if you
To
don't
make it gold.
And if you don't put your song in your albums in capitals, you'll get more points from William. I mean, that's the gist of it. So from that,
Your
sure.
cap-
There's always room for improvement.
Absolutely.
The
I'm not
tips are
sure-
the best.
I'm not sure whether it was, but the first people that I noticed do that was Shinedown with one of their albums. But the reason they did it was because one of the songs was called Special, and it was special because it was in lowercase. That's the first time I remember seeing it and commenting on it, and it's just like
Amazing.
now so many people are doing it. It's ridiculous.
Well, thank you very much, gang. We'll be back in the new year. I'm already listening to January's albums, and genuinely feels like album of the year again. They are that good. They are some of the albums I've listened to, with the likes of Linkin Park and stuff, are that good. They could have been our top albums of the year already. But anyway, we'll be back in the new year, and our panels will be going their separate ways and coming back again in 2025 for another album of the year show. I'm sure of it. Thank you very much. Sorry.
Can I say something?
You may, absolutely.
Okay, obviously, you guys are all amazing. We've got old members and we've got new members coming in with new listening ears. You've all been amazing, been great fun. And obviously, thanks needs to go to Nigel, head honcho, for bringing the albums to us to listen. And I'm really sorry that I've gone over to the dark side, Nigel, and you hate me.
I don't hate you. I'm just disappointed.
Disappointing.
It's worse.
Oh,
So much worse.
So, I don't think it made
Well,
any difference anyway by look at the points side of it. But we wish you all a Merry Christmas, of course,
Happy holidays.
and a Happy New Year and a festive season. Thank you to our viewers and subscribers. Please, if you like what you see, please like and subscribe and share. And hope you keep on listening. I hope you like our show. We love it. We're going to keep going, even if we have one viewer. We do it because we loved listening to brand new music and sharing that. And again, Dom, welcome back. Let's
Thank you.
hope you'll be back rocking in the new year with us. Pie and Mash Dave apparently will be back in the new year as well. Anyway, thank you very much to old and new. Thank you to Paul, special mention to Paul, who can be with us today, be gutted. But thank you to Lauren, thank you to Simon, thank you to Trish, thank you to Chris, to Andy, to Will, and to Dom. I would actually like put a big special out for Trish, by the way, because the amount of work that she puts in the background in terms of reaching out to bands and setting up interviews and sharing all our social media and stuff as well. I wanted to leave that to the very last because without her, I couldn't do all of this. I can organise it, but thank you very much, Trish, for all of your work on social media and sharing our posts and looking after us from that perspective as well. All we need you to do is listen to the music, show up and tell us what you think. There we go. In the meantime, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Congratulations again to Nothing More and to Carnal. Fantastic album. Check it out. See what you think. Leave a comment. What did you think? Do you agree, disagree? What would be your number one album of the year? Always like to hear your thoughts. Goodbye. Keep rocking. Keep safe.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.